What's going on, everybody? Justin Thomas here with a Westworld video for you. If this is your first time finding me, I cover Westworld not only on a regular basis, but with some of the top content creators in the Westworld fandom. This video is going to serve as a precursor to my video about the actual location, the specific location where I believe Westworld is. And we've had a lot of hints to this in the last episode, the first episode of season 1, Journey into the Night. Now I'm taking it a step further. A lot of what we've seen has confirmed what I've always thought, but I have changed my mind a little bit about where it's at. But let's talk about what we know, and let's talk about the bigger question that we need to answer first. One of the questions that is asked in a lot of the forums that I take part in. I run the Westworld Amino, so I'm involved with a lot of the conversation within the fandom. I see a lot of people asking, well, how does a theme park essentially have the power to tell the Chinese government whether they're leasing a private island off them or not, which FYI, that's pretty much what they've told us, have the power, the jurisdiction to tell the Chinese government to get the fuck off their island. Can a private company, much less a theme park, run as its own government? Are we this far in the future that this is what it's come to? And I say to that, well, you don't need to go to the future to see this. You actually have to go back in time and look at a little company called Disney and look to a man, Walt Disney, who James Delos most likely was not only aware of, but was a student of. The blueprint laid out by Walt Disney in 1963 when he ventured from his original park in California with a group of lawyers that were supposedly unaware of who their client was and that the companies that were being represented were shell companies for Walt, and they bought up 27,000 acres of land in Central Florida for $5 million. But even that is a steal, especially if you're going to put a theme park on it. Now, this land is mostly marshlands and orange groves at the time, and it has a very low populace. So this made it easy for Walt to get in there. Disney World is now twice the size of Manhattan and offers 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, over 20 resorts in a downtown shopping district, twice the size of Manhattan and about the same size as San Francisco. It's no surprise that Disney World seems to be its own country, but it is a big surprise that Disney World has its own government. Back in May 1967, Florida's then governor, Claude Kirk Jr., made changes to Florida law, creating 2 different cities, Bay Lake and Reedy Creek. This all fell under the jurisdiction of what is now called the Reedy Creek Improvement District, giving an unprecedented amount of power to a private company, much less a theme park. Walt Disney was smart. He started small by making sure he took plots of land that were at that time undesirable, but very desirable, just like Westworld that needs its seclusion and security, which it gained through water protecting it. He took this lackluster land of orange groves and mostly swampland more than anything and created his own island, using the swamplands as a moat of sorts to kind of separate himself from the rest of Florida. Now, once he had all this, started making moves on a small scale that didn't alarm anybody at the time, starting things like handling its own water supply, then moving to taking over its fire department and even emergency services. I mean, Walt Disney was an ambulance driver in World War II, and then he started stepping things up by created his own country within the United States. He gives out his own liquor license. He builds what he wants. If there's a crime committed within the Reedy Creek Improvement District, Walt takes care of it. Now, he was mostly able to achieve this because the inner cities in the mid-60s were kind of, well, plainly going to hell. So the original Epcot Center wasn't actually proposed to be that big golf ball looking dome we see today. It was proposed to be this mock world, sound familiar, that would show a city of the future. He promised this utopian life where people could go and immerse themselves in it. And he did this on every step. You arrive on a train, sound familiar, into Disney World. You get off and you see not only posters of the now famous mouse, but, trailers being played in the background. Still sound familiar? Westworld. And what happens is, in 1967, Walt passes away. Now, the Epcot Center is not really being built in the way that Disney said it was going to be built. this utopia, this perfect gleaming example of this American city that resides in America, but yes, is not dictated by really any U.S. laws or held to any regulations corporations are held to. So Disney as a corporation must justify this. But Walt Disney was a loved man. Walt Disney, pretty popular guy, especially after his death. It wasn't until years later we found out, I'll go ahead and say it, that he's a huge piece of shit. The Florida legislation meets in 1967 to discuss whether or not Disney should actually have this vast amount of control that is still to this day unprecedented. Not seen anywhere else other than still residing within Disney World. So what happens is they're questioning, why they deserve to have all these freedoms and not have to adhere to the same regulations as any other theme park or corporation. They really win over council by a film, a very Ford-esque way of doing things. After death, they show Walt Disney in his final months, stricken with pain from his cancer, recorded a almost testimony to sway this committee. And he talked about the benefits of Epcot, specifically Epcot, the carrot on the stick. Epcot was always supposed to be this beautiful utopian experiment that for the slums and impoverished cities to sprout up. Epcot would not only just be a Westworld, it would be the most immersive experience ever. People would live within the park. They would school people within the park, providing them with better education. They would essentially turn their theme park into a way of life, and this is how they were allowed to keep this just unheard of amount of power in deregulation. Now, if Walt ever really wanted Epcot to be this whole social experiment, but the lawyers definitely saw the issue with, similar to how Westworld is so afraid to have humans within their park working, and most of their employees even seem to be hosts, arguably. They saw that these people inhabit the park would not assure the prosperity of the park. It would doom it. So a similar situation there. And to this day, Epcot has never, ever become what it was supposed to be. Now, our stretch from the original concept, which you travel on a high-speed rail to, just like Westworld. And the biggest connection is that Epcot in Tomorrowland was supposed to be at the part of the park that you had to go to the surrounding areas first to make it to the real inner workings of the park, the center of the maze. Looking at the concept, it's very, very similar. Westworld is obviously influenced by Disney in many, many ways. The creatives want one thing, and in Disney, who knows that they really wanted to create this social experiment that Walt supposedly wanted to create. Everything's a mystery. The whole structure, the whole civic structure, the whole actual physical structure of the park is very similar. So in the next episode, we'll be speaking about what's going on in the South China Sea and how likely it is that this is a man-made island. There's only one island currently that is completed that could possibly fit the landmass needed for Westworld. And that island is unlikely to be the island because of the vast population of it. And it'd be hard to displace so many people that obviously they're not native to this island. Some may have been born, but, they moved to an artificial island. So it's going to be hard to get them to get off. A key in making a park on one of these islands and assuring your security would be having a preferably no populace. And if there is one, it'd be very low, easy to control or displace. And there's another island that is being built that will be in a shape of a yin-yang, actually, that would meet the specs needed as far as landmass goes. But I still don't think it's that. I'm going a little bit further, and I will just give a little teaser for it. There is an island off of this island, and this island was not man-made, called Ford's Island. This island has been in China's sights for quite a while. So I'm Justin Thomas. On Sunday, I'll be doing the pre-show live stream with Robert from Indie Geek and Hack's Dogma. And then after, we will be live streaming me and Hack's Dogma for the immediate after show. I'm Justin Thomas. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. And I will see you guys soon.